TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover Mentoring Our Youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our hosts, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda.
Well, hello, Mike.
Hey, Emerson. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too. We have some special things going on today, but it's been a couple of weeks since you've been able to be on here. Yeah. So it's good to have you back in the captain's chair there.
Yeah, sorry for all the traveling, but it was exciting. I learned a lot and met a lot of really neat people.
Oh,
and
man. Every time I talk to you.
We're having one as a guest today.
Yes, we are. Every time I talked to you, you had just a wealth of stuff that you had found and questions that have been answered and new understanding. And, that's what we have to do, I guess. It's what we have to do to stay on that edge in a business. We don't have to become the technical person, but we need to understand what the technology can do for us. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. And that's one of the reasons why we founded this program, was we wanted to get good information from reliable people quickly to business people out there, and individuals too. I mean, everything that we talk about more or less works in daily life too, not just in business. But it's hard to. There's so much content, it's hard to sort it anymore. So we've sorted some for you folks from some really good people, and we can intend to continue doing that.
And it can be overwhelming with all of the different changes and shifts. Just our AI website that you and I created, every single day has 20 or 30 new things in artificial intelligence alone. It's not going anywhere. But we can't become the experts on all of those things, and you don't have to, folks. You do not have to. In fact, our guest today has a great quote, and I'm gonna actually read it because it's a great quote that relates directly to this. He said, "Over 80% of the money and goodwill you will create for yourself will be due to your ability to connect and communicate with people. Less than 20% is due to your technical knowledge." And that's certainly I found to be true. Haven't you, Mike?
Yes, I have. Maybe even higher than that. But it's the old 80-20 rule. It works everywhere.
I know the first internet conference that I went to was like in 1993, and I already was overwhelmed by it. And it was then and there that I decided in my own life, Mike, I can't be the technician for everything. I have to know what I know and find out how I can use the new technology as it's coming along. And that's even more true today. But I see so many people in business especially, who get all caught up in trying to know everything about everything. And just like the old adage about selling, you know, if you sell to everybody, you sell to nobody. And I see that over and over again, where business owners get too caught up in it. And along the way, we have to trust that our strength isn't in the stuff we know or the technology we know. It's in the people. It's in the people around us. It's in the people in our companies. It's in our relationships. How many times have you folks heard me say in marketing, the number one word is relationship? And the relationships that we make with these people it's the difference between a one-off sale and a lifetime client who sends you endless referrals. But I'm going to get off the soapbox here because I want to bring our guest up, Mike. And our guest is Frank Candy. And Frank is going to bring us the answers we're all looking for, creative solutions to your biggest challenges. He's got a broad range of experience. He's worked in construction, been a master photographer. He's taught at university. He's worked in transportation, in logistics, an area that I spent a number of years in, advertising, entertainment, sports. I mean, that's pretty broad, Mike.
Yes, it is.
He's got multiple engineering degrees. He's worked with Disney, the Imagineer department, with NASA, with scientists and astronauts, with many authors and athletes and business gurus and titans and celebrities and CEOs and board members, entrepreneurs, and the list goes on and on and on. So, you know, suffice it to say, Frank is a man who's been there and done that. He's got the expertise, the mindset, the tool sets. And I really, really, really encourage you, listen, because I'm going to turn most of it over to him. Listen to the knowledge, the ideas that he brings that will make a difference for you. And if you know somebody who has a small business or who should be listening to this, especially if you're streaming it, let them know right now. I ask you all to welcome our guest today, Frank Candy. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
Hello, Emerson. Hello, Mike. Good to see you guys again.
You too. What do you got for us today, Frank?
Yeah, great place to start.
You know, I think you guys know your audience really well, and you know what they're challenged with, what keeps them awake at night, what their pain points are. So hit me with some questions and we'll roll.
Well, you know, I think a lot of our audience, not just our audience, people who've never even seen the show, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. There's been a lot of reasons why we can say we have a new normal that we're learning to live with, not the least of which is the last few years in the business changes and the economic things that we've been through in the last decade or so. You know, a lot of people, I find, don't have that positive outlook about the future. And I think it'd be a great place to start, just to kind of, because you and I were kind of touching on that before you got on, to get your input on some of that.
Having a positive outlook is simply a choice. Now, our brains are just like a computer. You put good stuff in, you get good stuff out. And if you are willing to allow a lot of bad stuff to come in, then you're going to be not in a good mood. You're not going to be positive. Years and years ago, when I had cable, and I cut the cable many years ago, I was watching a documentary on a cable show, and it was CNN. It was a pretty good documentary. And I was in my lazy boy chair. Has there ever been a chair more appropriately named? I don't think so. In all of marketing. So I passed out in the lazy boy chair partway through the show. I'd been working. I was tired. I faded out. And I woke up the next morning. So all night long, I was listening to CNN.
Oh, wow.
And I got up the next morning. I was mentally, I'm looking for the word, disturbed. I was like, what's wrong? What?
Wow.
Why am I? So once I realized, I've subconsciously been listening to all this bad news all night. No wonder I feel like I feel. So I know my triggers. I said, okay, let's do some positive things that will flip this around real quick. And everybody has the triggers to be able to do that. For some people, it's let's go take the dog for a walk. For other people, it's let's go to a car ride and listen to some of my favorite music. Listening to the late, great Jimmy Buffett, listen to some of his great music and always change someone's mood. I see that all the time. It doesn't matter what music you like, but figure out what you like. Find out what your positive triggers are. Make sure you're using them. I saw a recent statistic that blew me away because it's 5 times what it was 20 years ago. We are exposed to 25,000 different messages throughout the day. You walk through an airport, you're seeing all this advertising, all these TVs blaring, you're on the internet surfing, you're driving around. I mean, it's all these messages. And are they negative or positive? Well, the positive ones don't get as much interest or heat or click-throughs as the negative ones.
Sad to say. It's true.
And so I don't know if it's human nature. I suppose it is. But if you understand your subconscious mind and you are able to program it like a computer. So a wonderful book I'll recommend to your readers. I read it 40 years ago and I reread it every year. It's titled As a Man Thinketh.
Oh, wow.
I'm
Yes.
sure you guys are familiar with it.
Yeah.
And it's really a powerful book. It's a powerful book to help you understand what you think is what you become. Another very good author, I'm not sure if he's still with us. His name was Dr. Shad Helmstetter, and he wrote a series of fantastic books titled What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. This is a wonderful set of books. He was a wonderful guy. I had the privilege of working with him 3 decades ago, and it was one of those aha moments that, and I think we can all look back in our lives when we had an aha moment. A door opened, the lights were bright, and you saw the most beautiful automobile you've ever seen. Or an aha moment of reading a book that you read a paragraph and it stops you dead. You take a deep breath and you go back and read it again and again and again. Which gets me over to, how do we stay positive and putting good stuff in our minds, our brains, our spirit. I read a lot, and I also listen to audio books, and I make a conscious effort to read 15, 20 books a month.
Wow.
And not only read them, but I belong to a couple book clubs. And for our listeners, if you're looking for book clubs, there's a website called Meetup. That's MEETUP.com. This is not a dating site. This is a website for people who have common interests and actually want to get together with other people. Right before Mike and I met again over in Orlando, I saw a wonderful quote And I remember I put it into my subconscious mind as I was driving the first day to our mastermind. And the quote was, "The more hands you shake, the more money you make."
Yes.
And I don't know who said it. I wish I could give him credit for it, but might have been Les Brown. So I really want to emphasize that, you need to get out there and interact with people. So our society has become so stuck behind a computer screen,
Yeah.
and stuck behind a dashboard of an automobile or a truck or an SUV or whatever you're driving, a really cool Volkswagen like Mike has. Or if
With a crank
you,
key on the back.
with a cranky on the back. I know. I didn't even know that was his. I was out in the parking lot and I looked at it. It stopped me dead in my tracks. I got my camera out and I took a picture of it. I went, "Oh, that is so cool." And I have some friends who love that model of automobile, and I sent it to them. And a couple of them wrote back right away, "Where do I get one of those?"
We're going to have to put a picture of it up on one of the shows, Mike.
Yeah, the answer, of course, is Amazon.
Amazon, yeah, or eBay. So I recommend that you look through the meetup events that are happening where you live, and you can also start your own of interests that you have. Book clubs are always interesting. I've started book clubs, and I attend very eclectic book clubs as well, and book meetings and poetry readings and writers groups. I'm usually the senior citizen in there, and I enjoy the interaction with most of the people, if not all of them. And it's a great way to expand your mind and test the waters. And every time I'm going out to do speeches, I'm testing a story on my drivers and people who are transporting me, and the poor person sitting next to me in an airline seat. and I say that jokingly. I'm always respectful of their space. But I think it's really important that you are in control of your mindset and being able to think positive and believe in positive outcomes and create positive outcomes. And one of the biggest challenges, Mike knows I do a lot of consulting work and assist people who are looking to change professions, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily. Recently, over the last decade, I've worked with a lot of people in civil service, like law enforcement, coming out of the military, coming out of the fire department, and they've done their 20 years, and now they're in their 40s or 50s, and they, what am I going to do?
What's next?
Yeah. How do you reinvent yourself?
Especially true with the military. People who've come out and they had 3 shirts, or 5 shirts, they were all the same color, 5 pairs of slacks, they were all the same color. Everything that they did every day was regimented to a certain degree, and they get out. And I did an awful lot of speaking when after the first Gulf War, when the Navy was having their transition assistance program. I was doing corporate marketing at the time, and so I ended up volunteering. And every week I went down to the Navy base here, and I would speak to them, and I would talk to them about your resume is a sales letter, folks. And the dressing that you do. Learning to dress for success, that's important, and getting into the mindset that you're not just going to have your 5 tan shirts and 5 tan slacks anymore. You have to begin to think and present And in many ways, Frank, as you were saying that, I was thinking, for so many of them, I won't say negativity, but it was. But there was a certain fear and trepidation, this sense of an unknown future, and everything changing, and how do I adapt to it?
Emerson, what they lack is a sense of adventure.
Yes.
They have for many years, whether you're in corporate America or association work or the military or any of the law enforcement or fire department or any of the civil service jobs, you become a mental robot. You get up every day, you put on the same uniform, you go check in the same way. There's a lot of doing the same thing over and over again.
Well, and I'll say it this way: for those of you who drive to work, how many times have you gotten to the work where you work, and you can't remember if a certain light was red or yellow or green? You don't remember any of the cars that you passed or that passed you, and it's like you're driving like a zombie almost, because you do it every single day. Exactly what Frank is saying.
Yeah, one of the books I was just listening to, the author explained, and I loved his analogy on it. We drive to work the same day every day, and you're stuck in the same traffic jam. But there's 9 different ways to get to work, and 6 of them have no traffic. So I thought that was a wonderful point to make on this, because we have choices. It's really our whole show today could be: are you making the best choices for you?
Well, one of the things.
Go ahead.
Along that line, for several years, there was a company over in the west coast of Florida, and they'd bring me in about once every month or 6 weeks. They'd fly in their clients for me to work with their clients and teach them some core things for their own marketing. I found 17 ways to get from where I'm at over to the Tampa St. Pete area without having to get onto Interstate 4 or Interstate 95. And I found some of those amazing little holes and barbecue places and restaurants, and I got to talk with people, and I was so relaxed. It actually got to where I looked forward to the drive every single time, because it was an adventure.
Yeah,
every single time.
Throughout my life, I've ridden motorcycles.
Oh, wow.
And there was a motorcycle rally up in South Georgia, just over the Florida line. And some friends and I agreed to meet there. They were coming from all over the country. And I had to drive up. Now, I looked at the map and I looked at my options. And instead of taking the freeway, which would have been fast, but I wasn't in a hurry. So I took Route 17.
Oh, wow.
And it was all old Florida.
Yes.
And it was awesome. I started riding on Route 66 between Chicago and Santa Monica back in the 70s. So, for me, it was a recollection as I was driving down this old Florida about driving through the Midwest and seeing what was America. So, be positive, think positive, create positive things for you, eliminate the negative. It's very easy for me. I've trained myself. It's a mindset I have. If somebody has taken off into a space and place that is highly negative, how can I change that? Sometimes the change involves a conversation where you break their pattern and switch the subject and do it diplomatically. Another time, you have to say, "Excuse me," and walk away. And I've done both. So when I look at what I've accomplished, and someone asked me, this week, what do you think your best skill that you developed over time is? And I had to think about that a bit. And I said, really, it's being able to inspire a diverse group of people to get organized, focused, committed, and aligned to a common cause. And
Convey a vision.
well, it's not only, yes, it's create the vision.
For them to create the vision so they
Yep.
have that vision in them.
Well, you know, what you're trying to do, and you know sales well, both of you guys do, if you want buy-in from everybody, they've got to feel like they're a part of it. So I learned the creative storyboarding back with my grandfather when he was doing some project management. After he left his job of 44 years, he was a machinist, and apparently a very, very good one and a respected one. And from time to time, his phone would ring and somebody would say, we have a problem and we can't figure it out. And they would say, call Joe. And the phone would ring and Joe would answer the phone. And Joe would say to me, you know, we're going to go away for a couple hours, get in the car, off we'd go. And we'd walk into these plants and I'd be holding his hand. I was a little guy. And these guys would come up and they'd explain all this stuff about what wasn't working. And he would go over and he'd study the machine. He'd study the part. He'd look at the blueprint. He'd look at everything. And then his whole demeanor changed. He'd stand up a little taller. His shoulders got a little straighter. His eyes got wider. And then he very smartly said, this is going to take a while, because he was getting paid by the hour. So, well, he actually got paid by the project, but he wanted to manage their expectations. And as group leaders, we have to manage expectations. As if you're selling a piece of property, you have to manage the buyers and sellers' expectations. If you're selling a product, a service, whether tangible or intangible, you're managing expectations. So through my grandfather, I learned about storyboarding, then through Walt Disney and Mike Vance, who was an employee of Walt Disney World and a rather famous author. He wrote the book, Think Outside the Box. If you can find it, it's a very good book. And he took storyboarding that the Walt Disney Company was using to a whole new level. And then I met a gentleman named, his name was right on the tip of my tongue. You know, Jerry McNellis. There we go. Poof. My mind is like a big steel trap, an old rusty one.
An old rusty.
So I met Jerry McNellis with the McNellis Institute, and Jerry had taken creative storyboarding even farther. And a lot of creative ways you can use it. Then computers came in, and now I'm doing it online with software, which is very interesting. I much prefer the in-person approach, but so much of it has to do with the preparation. And I think if we could put a tone or a line that would be a theme for our show today, it could be the preparation to do things the best we can and think positively through all of it. Because for all my successes and all my failures, and believe me, I'm probably running about 50%, preparation has been the one key element in being able to look at something and say, when it didn't work, I'll look at it and say, did I prepare enough? If it did work, then I'm asking the question, okay, it worked. Now, what can we do to improve? Every great culture is built on trust, seeking excellence, ongoing improvement, and fantastic service. And all of that has to do with preparation and communication. Trust is something that when people come into a room, if they come in and they're excited and they see something they're going to participate in that's going to be different, and you've done all your preparation work up front. So let's say you're doing a project and the project is writing a book, and the person that's writing the book is going to be the center stage on this. He or she is going to be explaining the purpose of the book and their mindset about it. And the people in the room are going to be offering recommendations and suggestions. The group leader, the facilitator, will pass out Sharpies and 3x5 cards. They'll all already be prepared, laid out on the table. They'll come in. The group leader will explain what they're doing and how they're going to do it. They're going to turn it over to the author. The author is going to have a prepared statement that I will have worked on with them, and they will go through that outline, and then we seek ideas. And people are just popping off ideas. And you're writing down the ideas, 1, 2, 3 words on a 3x5 card, and pinning them up on a board. And when you've got half a dozen or a dozen people in there and you're popping off 50, 100, 200 ideas, and you've got them up on storyboards, and you can feel it about 15, 20 minutes into it, you've pretty much done what we call a brain dump, or a clearing of the minds, or you've gotten the ideas out. Take a break. We have food, we have refreshments, and we send them off to go network and talk. And I'll sit back with perhaps the author and maybe another person. There's a publisher involved or some other strategic people. And we'll take a look at all the ideas, and then we'll organize them on the board. And it might be organizing it by theme, by chapter, by title. So if we're doing a book, we'd probably have one storyboard that would have potential titles and potential words for a title. And then we'd have another board for subtitle. And we'd have another board for chapter titles. And then we'd have specific topics that have been addressed or had not been thought of but could be addressed. And we put those there. And we may have 4, 5, 6 boards laid out. So far, we've got about 45 minutes to an hour invested in this. We've welcomed them. They've come in. We've done a brain drain. We've taken a break. We've reorganized and set up the boards. We call everybody back. And then we go through an analysis of what we have. And in order to speed things up, because first of all, we're asking, now that you've had a chance to process this and look at it and see the way we've organized it, what can you add to it? You got a good group, man. People add a bunch of stuff. We may take another short break, refresh, redo the boards. Then we set out at everybody's desk color dots with glue on it. You know, that's just the little dots like you might use when you're pricing stuff for the church rummage sale. Different colors. We bring them back and say, okay, got all our ideas. We'd like you to vote on them. Now, there's a statistical number that we use that will provide us, if we have, let's say, 100 ideas and we've got 10 people we've got a mathematical formula we use, giving them X number of dots based on the number of people and the number of ideas to vote on. So we will give them the dots, turn on some music, and we use uplifting subliminal music with a powerful message in it. And we send them up silently as the music is playing. Go vote on the ones you like the most. Then we go to the next one, and we go to the next one, and we go to the next one. And they vote. And then we thank them. And now we have basically run a storyboard session to manage, brainstorm, vote on a project. Could be a book, it could be building a building, it could be making last year I did one for a gentleman that wanted to start a race car team. I love racing. I've been doing it all my life, but this was combining what I love to do and one of my favorite hobbies. So that was a lot of fun. So I want to emphasize to you that this technique I've just described knows no limits. We've used it for fundraisers. We've used it for organizing boards of directors. We've used it for it's great for project management, and Walt Disney is often given credit for it, but it actually goes back to even the Egyptians were using it, and this is a process that's hundreds of years, thousands of years old, and been used thousands of different ways. And I highly recommend that people research being able to use strategies like this to get diverse groups of people organized, committed, aligned, and focused on a common cause or purpose or reason to do something good and important. It can reduce the planning time from 2 years to 2 months, or from 2 months to 2 weeks, or from 2 weeks to 2 days, or from 2 days to 2 hours.
Definitely. You know, I think one of the things, and I've often said this, as I'm brought in to do consulting work with companies and things like that, I have no pride of authorship.
Yeah.
Having that sense of, I want this project. I want this company. I want this thing that we're working on. I want it to be the best it can be. I don't have to be the one that always has that idea. I want whosever idea it is, or whosever ideas it may be, that it's the best that we can make it. So no pride of authorship there, or I got a one-upsmanship, or any of the other stuff that gets in the way of that. Don't you think that's an important element in that?
Well, it is, Emerson, and I like to remind people to, and I have to remind myself as well, to check our egos at the door.
Yes.
Because
your ego is not your amigo.
Yeah, it sure isn't, is it?
So, you know, one other thing is make sure that you're not the smartest person in the room. If you are,
oh boy, yes.
You know, and you also, what you mentioned earlier is a real structured mastermind. And,
yeah, I never had that problem at Disney or NASA. I was never the smartest guy in the room.
Well, you know, at NASA, it wasn't rocket surgery. So, but, you know, I think that's important. And that's one of the areas that the meetups will help you with is, you know, you want to get other sharp people in there. You know, just because you're the owner of your company doesn't mean that you know more about what your company should do than everybody else. I think the companies that ran Dr. Deming out of the country for his ideas, his 14 points, all felt they were a lot smarter than him. And that literally gave Japan a chance to turn their whole industrial complex around because they listen to them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
today
is
the
a
Deming
great
Award is
story
the
about
highest
what
award you
happened.
can get in Japan.
Yeah, it's a great. Deming was amazing. The three guys, Deming, Drucker, and Crosby,
Yeah.
Philip
Wow.
Crosby. And I had
Yes.
the privilege of getting to know all of them through my work back in the 80s and 90s. And when I decided to move to Florida and I chose Winter Park, one of my associates said, "Hey, Phil Crosby lives in Winter Park."
Wow.
I went, "Really?" So the clear blue, I called, I looked it up in the phone book. Remember phone books? I looked it up in the phone book and called the office, got a secretary on the phone, asked for a meeting, and they said, "Are you available tomorrow?" I went, "I am." So I went down to Park Avenue, found a bookstore, walked in, asked if they had any of his books. They had 3 of his books. I bought all 3, and he had gone to the bookstore and autographed them, so I had autographed copies. And I stayed up all night reading the books. Absolutely loved them. Was very prepared coming in the next day. Had a great meeting with him, and he was in the twilight of his career. He had just sold his company for huge money. And now he was starting something he called Career 4, which he was going to do speaking and consulting. And so we really hit it off. We found a lot in common. Turns out we only grew up not even 100 miles away from each other. And we both had a lot of interest in medicine. Many people don't know this. Phil Crosby was actually a medical doctor. He went all the way through med school. His dad was a doctor. He went all the way through medical school, practiced podiatry for 1 year, and said, "Hell no, I'm not doing this." And he went to work in management at Lockheed Martin. And he just grew it from there. And great guy, great human being, and can't say enough nice about him. He was a pillar in our community and left a fantastic legacy. And his thing was quality is free.
Yep.
I'll let you chew on that a minute. Quality is free. And we used to have talks, long talks, about quality, excellence, the right mindset for business, taking care of your people. You know, I just met, matter of fact, Mike was one of the young men we were at that conference in Orlando with. We connected up and talked for about 45 minutes on the phone late last week. And I asked him his key question: what's the most important thing in business? And he says, profit. No, it's people. It's people. I said, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean." I said, "You have a lot of good people, you make a lot of profit. If you're doing really good work, you make a lot of profit. If it all starts with people, and it all starts with you as a leader." And it gets into, how do you organize that? How do you establish it? How do you create it? And I use a playbook. This isn't a new concept. It's not something I developed.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little more. Yeah.
Okay. When I was a kid, I had a lot of energy and I liked sports. And one day, as we were changing classes in junior high school, a couple older bullies were trying to push my friend, my neighbor, into a locker. And I went over and stopped it. And then the bullies started in on me, And what they didn't know was that I had, at that point, about 3 years of martial arts training. And my dad was a professional boxer, so I had some skills. And fortunately for me, the shop teacher saw the whole thing. And we all got drugged down to the office, and the vice principal was also the football coach. And he heard the story from the shop teacher, and he said to me, look, I'm supposed to suspend all of you, but I know that you were trying to defend your friend and you didn't start the fight and you had to defend yourself. And I'm suspending those kids. And I'm supposed to suspend you because you were involved in fighting. But I'd be willing to take you on as my assistant coach. I'll make you my assistant coach of the team. So what's that involve? He goes, just say yes. I said, well, okay. So my job was to manage the playbooks for the team. That's the first time I ever touched the playbook. And the playbook had all the plays for offense, defense, special teams. It had the listing of all the coaches and their phone numbers and their office locations. It had the numbers of the team doctors. It had all the details that you would have to know to be an effective member of the football team. And every week the plays changed, and I had to update all the playbooks, and I had to provide a new playbook, updated playbook to a new player that came on the team, and I had to retrieve the playbook from any player who quit the team. And this was supposed to be a 2-week thing, and it ended up being about a year. I really loved it. And then I went to play for the coach, and I really understood how valuable playbooks were. When I started businesses, just by sheer instinct and experience, I started playbooks for them. And so I teach people a playbook method that for me goes back over 5 decades of business planning and creating a culture of excellence and trust and a mindset of ongoing improvement and fantastic service and business planning that I believe is second to none. And the reason I say that is because when people do this and they do it well and they latch onto it and they adhere to it, they're highly successful. We've got a whole string of people out there who love this process, and I've licensed it and people are teaching it. And it is a methodology that anybody can use to organize their life and their business. And when everybody runs a business is responsible for the culture, whether they like it or not. If they let the culture create itself, then it's kind of like making roadkill chili. You just never know how it's going to taste. And you can tell from the description of roadkill chili, it's probably not that good. So it's up to you as a leader to have a clear vision of what you want this to be. I tell people that want to start a business, in my mind, there's only one reason to start a business. And that is to build an empire, to build an enterprise, that you can turn around and sell. And if you can demonstrate to a buyer that you have loyal, dedicated employees and that you have created a culture that makes money for you as an absentee owner, and they can look at this and say, let me get this straight. This becomes another asset in my portfolio, and it's just going to keep making money year after year. Pretty much. You don't have to manage very much of it. Just keep the culture going, Make sure you keep your people happy and move forward. I'm not the only one that's done this. There's plenty of companies that have done this. But the result is not only profit, but the result, and this is the great one, is you attract good employees. You attract good customers, good clients. You attract good vendors. People want to work with you. And when you can offer that strategy and people grasp it, it's like the lights have come on and they're just ready to get on the track and start running or driving or racing or going. To me, it's like a freeway for business. And it's not that freeway in California that's always stuck. It's
405.
Yeah, the 405. Oh, man. How many hours did I sit on the 405? Haven't we
But
all?
You know what you're talking about is a lot of businesses that I've worked with didn't even have really a standard operating procedure, an SOP. But you're talking about something way beyond that, because you're talking about a culture, and this ties directly into what you were describing earlier about putting the ideas out and valuing the other ideas. And when I said no pride of authorship, that means you don't have to be the one that is the best of the best of the best. Having that corporate culture, the mindset, the care, the things like that. I returned something today. There's a store called Aldi's. You have them down there.
I love Aldi's. Yep.
I love them too. I love their spirit, and I like their products and everything else. But I've returned stuff to them before, and usually I'll say, look, I just want to swap it out, because for those of you who don't know, Aldi's have a procedure, a process. If you return it, you get your money back and you get to get another one. And I've always said, I just want to do an exchange. And the guy said, oh no, sir. If there's something wrong with it, we are supposed to give you your money back as well. And so they credited the money back and they returned it. That's a culture. That's a culture that says we care about you more than we care about that $3. And that's a powerful thing. And most businesses never take the time to actually put that down into a playbook, into a plan, into something that they can hand to somebody or show the videos to somebody or however. And when somebody new comes in a very short period of time, they've adapted to that whole mindset. And that's brilliance. But most businesses that I talk with, Frank, and tell me this is, maybe you've had the same experience. Many businesses that I've talked to, I'll say, not most, they don't even, I say, what's your exit strategy? And it's like, oh, I don't want to think about my exit. We want to make money. It's like, no. What's the end game? Where do you want this to go? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to go public? Do you want your kids to take it over? Do you want to give it? Do you want to provide it to your employees or give them shares? Tell me what your exit strategy is. And sadly, one of my mentors used to say, most business owners' exit strategy is to fall face forward on their desk.
I just had that conversation last month with somebody said, I'll probably stroke out at my desk.
There you go. That's not a great exit strategy, folks.
Yeah, there's a lot more to life than look. If all you do is start a company so that you can make money, so you can pay your mortgage and buy some food,
get a job,
and you have a job.
Yeah,
but the problem is you're working like a maniac, and eventually it just leads to an early grave. So. Doesn't make any sense to me. People need to get a grip on that, and I hope they will and do as time goes on.
We got about a minute left.
Oh, let's wrap it up.
What's a thought you want to leave the folks with? Or if there's something, if they come to your side, or some some suggestion that you want to make for them here in the last minute or so.
We can rebuild all of this and do it with magnificent strategy and culture and precision. All it takes is a dream and a vision, and what's required is the action to make that dream and the vision come true. And I think we have a difficult road ahead of us. I believe that America's best days are ahead of it. I believe we have, no matter where you are in the world, these strategies work.
Yes.
So think positive, be positive, stay positive, learn, read, grow every day, focus on good health. I know that you guys do a thing on health, and I'd like to participate and learn more about what you're doing with that. And I want to wish all of our listeners and all of you who participated in this today a very happy, healthy, and safe and wonderful life. You can find me on the web at frankcandy.com. That's frankcandy.com. And I'm happy to talk with good folks who are wanting to build an empire.
We really appreciate you being here with us today.
Hey, I appreciate you guys, man.
And I'm going to pass it on to Jim as far as the other show as well. Mike?
Yes, sir.
Another great show. Frank, thank you.
Frank impressed me in person. He's even better on the show. That's awesome, Frank. Thank you so much.
I really enjoy you guys, and keep up the great work.
Thanks. Take care, folks. Stay
well.
Take care.